The vastness of space stretched endlessly, a canvas of infinite black punctuated by the flicker of distant stars. Humanity had long since mastered the art of space travel, and now, in this age of exploration, it found itself at a crossroads. The galaxy had grown accustomed to peaceful negotiation, to the quiet understanding between species that a simple handshake could seal alliances. But for all the diplomacy, there was one force the galaxy had yet to reckon with: humanity. Commander Marcus Hale stood in the control room of the Ether's Edge, a warship now as advanced as any fleet in the galaxy. It was a machine built for war, but he had yet to lead it into battle. His eyes, sharp and focused, flicked across the holoscreens, each displaying the newest data sent from the Galactic Council. But his thoughts were elsewhere, consumed by the message he had just received. The galactic community had issued an ultimatum, an offer of peace. Peace that came with terms. Earth would join the Intergalactic Federation, bending to its codes and restrictions, just like all the other civilizations. It was a peaceful offer, they insisted, but there was something unsettling about it. As if peace itself was being imposed. "Are we seriously considering this?" Hale muttered, speaking to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kira Drayton, who stood beside him. Her face was calm, though her eyes betrayed a quiet fury. "We've been offered everything," she replied, her voice low but steady. "Trade routes, protection, access to technologies that could change our world forever. And all we have to do is join. Why hesitate?" Marcus exhaled sharply. "Because it's not a partnership. It's subjugation dressed up as peace." His hands rested on the table, fingers clenched. "We don't bend. Not for anyone." The room fell silent. The message from the galaxy was clear, and Hale was at the heart of the storm. It was no longer just a question of diplomacy or politics. It was a matter of identity. Humanity had clawed its way to the stars, driven by the belief that it was unique, that it had something the galaxy needed: tenacity, ingenuity, and an unwavering will to survive. To now surrender those traits to the Federation would be a betrayal of everything they stood for. "This peace offer is a trap, Kira," Marcus continued. "If we accept, we become one of them. One of the many, not the few. And I'm not ready to give up that difference." Lieutenant Drayton's brow furrowed. "So what do you suggest? We turn our backs on the Federation, reject everything they offer? Start a war?" The thought of war wasn't a comforting one, but Marcus didn't flinch. "Not a war. A refusal. We make it clear that we won't be controlled. And if that leads to a fight, then so be it." He turned to look out at the stars, the glimmer of distant civilizations a reminder of the challenge before them. "Humanity refuses to be molded. We carve our own path." Kira's gaze softened, understanding in her eyes. "But the Federation is powerful. More powerful than we are. Even with our warships, we'd be outmatched. And yet," Marcus said, "we've survived every challenge thrown at us. The galaxy calls us a young species, but it forgets we've survived crises that would have destroyed entire empires. The Federation thinks they can impose their will on us, but they've never faced the one thing that separates us from every other species: the strength of human resolve." In that moment, Marcus knew what he had to do. The Ether's Edge would not be used as a tool of submission. Instead, it would be the spearhead of a new movement, one that would carve out humanity's future on its own terms, whether the galaxy liked it or not. The decision was made, and within hours, the Ether's Edge was on course to the Federation's meeting station, the vast floating hub at the center of the galaxy. The Federation had chosen this station as a neutral ground for peace talks. It was a symbol of unity, but to Marcus, it was just another reminder of the shackles they wanted to put around humanity's neck. As they neared the station, the comms hummed to life. "Commander Hale," the voice of the Federation's envoy, a representative named Elner Voss, echoed through the speakers. "We are pleased to have you on board. Please prepare for the formal meeting. We are looking forward to our union." Marcus's grip on the console tightened. "I'm not here for a union, Voss," he replied, his voice calm but resolute. "I'm here to make it clear that humanity will never bend to your will." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Commander, I urge you to reconsider. The Federation offers unparalleled protection and advancement. I don't need your protection, Marcus interrupted. And I sure as hell don't need your handouts. We'll make our own future. The transmission cut off abruptly. Kira glanced over, worry in her eyes. You're not planning to start this right here, are you? Marcus's expression hardened. They'll get the message, Kira. It's the only way they'll understand. As the station loomed closer, the tension in the control room thickened. The crew was ready, but the uncertainty of what was to come hung over them like a storm cloud. Marcus knew what this meant. If the Federation didn't back down, they would have no choice but to fight. The moment the Ether's Edge docked, a squad of Federation peacekeepers greeted them, their faces expressionless. Marcus stood tall, stepping forward with Kira by his side. Elner Voss was waiting for them inside the meeting hall, a cold smile on his face. Commander Hale, he said, his voice dripping with false cordiality. We were hoping you'd see reason. Marcus took a step closer. You can keep your reason, Voss. Humanity will not be subjugated. Your peace is a lie. The room grew silent, the tension palpable. The peacekeepers watched, waiting for a signal. But Marcus wasn't backing down. This was the moment where humanity's future was on the line. You'll see, Marcus said, his voice unwavering. We don't need peace on your terms. We'll carve our own destiny. And the galaxy will learn that when humanity says no, it means no. With that, he turned on his heel, and the crew followed, leaving the Federation to reconsider the cost of trying to impose peace on a species that refused to compromise. The calm after Marcus Hale's defiant words felt unnatural. The crew aboard the Ether's Edge moved in measured silence, as though the air around them had thickened, the weight of their decision pressing heavily on every person aboard. In the control room, the hum of the ship's engines was the only sound, an unsettling reminder of the quiet before the storm. Marcus stood before the window, his gaze locked on the stars. He hadn't expected the Federation to back down so easily, but neither had he imagined they would respond so swiftly. Kira Drayton entered, her boots making a soft click on the floor. She was still processing the meeting, her mind running through the possible consequences. She glanced at Marcus, but her voice was steady when she spoke. Do you think they'll retaliate immediately? The Federation doesn't take kindly to being ignored. Marcus turned, his face unreadable. They've already sent the message, Kiara. You heard Voss. This isn't over. They'll try to break us, to force us into compliance. But they'll learn one thing, humanity doesn't kneel. Not to anyone. Kira nodded, but there was a tinge of doubt in her eyes. She had seen firsthand how advanced the Federation was. Their fleet outmatched theirs in sheer numbers and firepower. The Ether's Edge was a formidable vessel, but even it wouldn't stand a chance against the full might of the Federation if they chose to retaliate. You're right, she said, adjusting the collar of her uniform. But we're not alone. There's a lot of unrest out there, Marcus. The galactic community might not be ready to side with us, but they're certainly not happy with the Federation's methods. Marcus sighed, his hand resting on the ship's console. I hope you're right. But hope isn't enough when it comes to survival. As if on cue, the comms chimed, the shrill sound cutting through the air like a knife. Marcus stiffened. He knew what was coming. Commander Hale. The voice of Admiral Rian Talbot crackled over the speaker. We have incoming Federation ships. At least 6, maybe more. They're not here to negotiate. Marcus' jaw tightened. He glanced at Kiara, whose expression mirrored his own, concern mixed with defiance. The Federation had made their move. And now, it was up to them to respond. Status report, Lieutenant. Marcus barked, his tone sharp as steel. Kira tapped a few commands into the console, her fingers flying across the controls. Scanners show them approaching at full speed. They're already within weapons range. Marcus turned away from the console, his mind working fast. He had expected the Federation to send a fleet, but the speed at which they had mobilized was staggering. They were not just sending a message, they were preparing for war. All hands to battle stations, Marcus ordered. We need to be ready for whatever they throw at us. Kira's face hardened as she moved to the weapons control station. Ready to fire, Commander. But we can't match their numbers. What's our strategy? We don't need to match them. We just need to survive long enough to make them understand that we're not going to back down. The Ether's Edge shuddered as the first volley of plasma fire hit its shields. The Federation's ships were massive, their sleek hulls reflecting the harsh light of distant stars. But Marcus knew the Ether's Edge wasn't built for this type of confrontation. It wasn't a battle cruiser, it was a symbol. A weapon of resolve, not brute force. Shields holding, but weakening, Kira called out from the tactical station. They're not letting up. Marcus gritted his teeth, his knuckles white from gripping the console. Countermeasures, now. Deploy the decoys and lock in evasive maneuvers. The ship lurched as the decoys were launched, glowing flares streaking through space, designed to confuse the Federation's targeting systems. But Marcus knew it wouldn't be enough. Not for long. We need to give them something to think about, Marcus said, his voice low but firm. Activate the main weapon systems. Kira's eyes widened. You're not suggesting. I am, Marcus interrupted, his gaze hardening. We're going to show them that humanity will fight for its right to exist. With a quick series of commands, the Ether's Edge fired its main cannons, the blast of energy lighting up the void of space. The beam struck one of the Federation ships directly, sending it into a violent spin. The impact didn't destroy the ship, but it was enough to send a message: humanity wasn't to be underestimated. Direct hit, Kira said, her voice tinged with a mix of awe and fear. They're taking heavy damage. Marcus's lips twisted into a grim smile. Let's see if they still want to negotiate. The Federation's response was immediate. Another volley of fire rained down on the Ether's Edge, and the ship shook violently. Sparks flew from the control panel, and the lights flickered, but Marcus held his ground. They couldn't afford to be intimidated. Brace for impact, Kira shouted. The ship jolted again as the Federation's weapons found their mark. The shields flickered before failing entirely, and the Ether's Edge took a direct hit to its aft. The room was thrown into chaos as alarms blared and the emergency lights kicked on. But Marcus didn't flinch. We're not backing down, he said through gritted teeth. Set course for the Federation flagship. We're going straight for them. Kira turned to him, her expression a mix of disbelief and admiration. You're insane. We'll be destroyed before we even get close. Marcus didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on the view of the Federation fleet outside the window. Sometimes you have to risk everything to make a point. The Ether's Edge surged forward, its engines roaring in defiance as it sped toward the heart of the Federation fleet. The Federation ships attempted to swarm it, their firepower overwhelming. But the Ether's Edge was nimble, weaving in and out of their lines of fire, dodging and countering with strikes of its own. The Federation's flagship loomed ahead, a massive vessel bristling with weapons. It was the command center of their fleet, and Marcus knew that taking it out would send a powerful message. As they neared, Kira's voice crackled over the comms. Commander, we can't keep this up for much longer. We're too damaged. Marcus's answer was resolute. Then we fight until we can't. But we make sure they remember who they're dealing with. The Ether's Edge pushed forward, cutting through the chaos of battle. Humanity's resolve had been tested, but it was far from broken. The Federation had underestimated them, and now they would learn the true cost of underestimating humanity's will to survive. The Ether's Edge was a ship that should never have survived this long. The hull was battered, scarred by countless impacts. Sparks flew from exposed circuits, and the soft hum of the engines was a low, strained whine. Yet, despite it all, Marcus Hale stood resolute at the bridge, a storm brewing in his chest as he looked out across the battlefield. His ship, the symbol of human resilience, had taken on the might of the Federation, and it had not fallen. Not yet. But that was only half the story. The Federation's flagship, Seraphis, now drifted in the distance, disabled but still ominously intact. The galaxy's most advanced warship had taken a few hard hits, but its defensive systems had proven formidable. It was still operational, and its fleet had turned to engage the Ether's Edge with a renewed fury. Yet, against all odds, Marcus's ship was still fighting back. The crew had held their ground, making daring moves and exploiting every vulnerability in the Federation's armor. "Shields are down to 17%, Commander," Kira Drayton reported, her voice cutting through the static of the bridge. "We've lost 4 of the aft thrusters, and our reactor's starting to show signs of instability. At this rate, we'll be sitting ducks in the next 10 minutes. Marcus glanced at her, the weight of her words sinking in. They were running out of time. Out of options. But there was something in him, a spark that refused to let go. "Can we get a few more shots off before we lose power completely?" Kira's fingers danced across her console, the lights flickering as systems tried to stay online. "I've already optimized the targeting systems to focus fire on their engines. If we can disable one more of their ships, it'll give us the breathing room we need." "Do it." The Ether's Edge lurched forward, its weapons flaring to life one last time. The plasma cannons fired, the shots slamming into the flank of one of the Federation's vessels. The explosion sent ripples through space, and Marcus's heart skipped a beat as the ship went dark. Another one down. But victory came at a price. "Direct hit from the Seraphis." Kira's voice cut through, tight with urgency. "We're losing main power. Life support is down to 40%, and the engines are failing. We won't make it out of this unless we retreat." Marcus took a breath, the reality of their situation hitting him like a freight train. They were losing. There was no denying it. The Federation had more ships, more firepower, and they were willing to keep coming. And the Ether's Edge, for all its resilience, was just one ship. One ship against an entire fleet. "Not yet," Marcus said, the words feeling foreign in his mouth even as he spoke them. "We can't retreat. Not like this." "Commander," Kira protested, turning to face him. "If we don't pull back now, we'll all die here. What's the point of holding out if we can't win? If we're just throwing ourselves into their guns?" Marcus paused, the weight of her words pressing against his resolve. He wanted to argue, to fight back, to tell her that surrender wasn't an option. But deep down, a part of him knew she was right. The odds had never been in their favor. They were fighting for survival, not victory. "We're not running," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "We're going to show them that even if they wipe us out, they'll know what it costs. Humanity will go down fighting. If they want peace, they'll have to come to us. Not the other way around." Kira's expression softened, but her gaze never wavered from him. "And if they don't? Then they'll have to answer to every world we've ever fought for. Every human life that will never bow to them." There was a moment of silence as the weight of his words hung in the air. Kira's eyes flickered with a quiet understanding. She knew the cost of their defiance. But it was the same price every freedom fighter had paid throughout history. The Federation wasn't the first to attempt to crush humanity's spirit, and it wouldn't be the last. "Incoming," Kiara said, her eyes wide. The Seraphis had sent its final wave. The Federation ships, relentless and precise, now circled the Ether's Edge, cutting off any possible escape routes. Marcus didn't flinch. He was already moving, already calculating. He had one last card to play. "Prep the emergency sequence," Marcus ordered. "Activate the warp drive. If we can't win here, we'll make sure they know we're not easy prey. Let's give them something to remember." Kira looked up from her console, confusion flickering in her gaze. "But the warp drive." "I know. It's a long shot. But it's our only shot. If we jump now, we can destabilize their targeting systems long enough for us to escape. If we're lucky, they'll think we're out of their range. But Commander, what if they follow us? What if they catch up before we can?" "We'll do what we've always done," Marcus interrupted. "We'll survive. We won't stop. Humanity's future isn't written yet." The ship trembled as the last of their weapons fired in defiance, sending a final barrage toward the Federation fleet. The Ether's Edge lurched forward, its warp engines sputtering to life with a faint whine, the ship shaking under the strain. A burst of light, blinding, white-hot, flared at the edges of the ship as it tore through space, skipping across the fabric of the universe. For a brief moment, it felt as though they had left everything behind, as if they were truly free. The sudden silence was deafening. The ether's edge lurched in the void of space, its damaged hull barely holding together as it coasted through the empty expanse. Marcus stood motionless, his hand gripping the console as he waited for the inevitable call. The Federation would find them. They would track them down. They would come. But for now, they had escaped. "Commander," Kira said, breaking the silence. Her voice was strained, but there was a flicker of something else in it, hope. "We made it." Marcus didn't respond immediately. Instead, he let his gaze drift out the viewport, watching as the stars stretched into the distance. They had survived. They had defied the odds, not with strength, but with conviction. And as the ship drifted through the void, the thought settled into his mind, firm and unshakable. Humanity's fight was far from over.